Hi, this is your host Apil Bhartia and welcome to our yearly video prediction series. And today we have with us once again Randy Bias, VP of Technology and Strategy at Mirantis. Randy, it's great to have you back on the show.
Always great to be here, Swap.
We do this every year, and our audience, of course, they know about Mirantis. But let's just quickly remind them what is Mirantis all about and the core problem it is going to solve as we head into 2026.
Yeah, so Mirantis has been on a pretty straightforward journey, right? It's been virtualization infrastructure, then container infrastructure, and now we're working on AI infrastructure and doing a lot of interesting things around that. And a lot more to announce later this year.
Excellent. Thank you. Now it's time for you to grab a crystal ball and share your top 3, 5, whatever predictions you have or major shifts that you expect to see in the industry this year.
Yeah, so the place that I've been focused recently is really about agents and operations. Sometimes people call it AI ops. There's been the whole MCP thing. But what I find fascinating is that the focus to date has been on AI assisted coding and AI assisted operations. There's very little work being done. I mean, it's not none. There are people absolutely working on it, but it's not the level that needs to be. It's nowhere near the level of attention that's being paid for software development. And we're even starting to see that inside now. We have these large deals we are working on for AI infrastructure. Can't really go into any detail about them, but we are trying to figure out how do we automate everything top to bottom? How does the AI factory be something that can manage itself for the most part? And so we're really asking ourselves some interesting questions about how to apply AI and agents to operations, top to bottom, networking, storage, bare metal, virtualization, cluster management, every aspect of an AI factory. Another area which is really interesting is we think, or at least I think, MCP is going to break out this year. Last year was kind of like this idea that MCP goes into a foundation and it gets, sort of like a certain, momentum around it, and that ecosystem becomes something that flourishes. And I'm convinced that this is the year that that's just a done deal. I don't think that there's really going to be any other protocols for the most case for agents. They'll just keep extending the MCP protocol. And related to this, an area that I'm really fascinated with and that I've been talking about on LinkedIn and stuff is that it seems like the era of kind of the custom agents is going to go away. So to date, people have been doing a lot of things where they build custom agents, but it seems like these general purpose agents like Cloud Code, you said you've been using a lot of MCP servers and tools as well, Swap, but it seems like Cloud Code and Codex and Gemini and Goose and all those different general purpose agents can basically be put to domain specific purposes by combining skills and tools in the form of MCP servers to basically attack domain specific problems. And I think that what that allows you to do is ride the models, to ride the innovation that happens in those general purpose agents. And I just think that's a trend that's going to be ongoing. I think 80-90% of most agentic use cases can probably be solved with those general purpose agents. I think another thing that's going to be very interesting, and it kind of brings together these last two things I talked about, general purpose agents and the rise of MCP, is that I think we've already seen the beginnings and we'll see more of general purpose agents writing code that then is pushed to MCP servers to execute on their behalf. So little notice feature capability that came out in the last MCP protocol spec was tasks. So tasks are something that you could set as a long running capability on an MCP server and then go back and check in asynchronously at a later time. And I think that's going to get combined with running custom code. So what's an example of what that might look like? I did this recent kind of proof of concept called Nightcryer that I posted about on LinkedIn. And that was about creating a triage agent that can be automatically dispatched when there's a problem in production. Well, it's not triggered by a human. It's not triggered by a developer. It's triggered by events in production. But what are those events in production? How do you know whether something that goes wrong or a fault or an event in a Kubernetes cluster is something you care about? Well, now a general purpose agent can basically write the code that has the rules and the actions that create the triggers for doing an automated action like a triage event, and it can update that code on a regular basis. So I think more and more we're going to see that the MCP protocol and MCP servers can be extended, and they'll be extended dynamically by agents making decisions about what the agent thinks it needs. and then pushing that information as code and having it run server side. So I think that's something that we'll see really start to get big this year.
What are some of the biggest challenges or bottlenecks the industry will face when we try to adapt to these changes?
I mean, the biggest one I see right now is just enterprise adoption, right? It's the typical problem with the enterprise adoption curve. You've got new technology. It's got to be vetted and validated. It's got to be secured. We just went through a whole process with answering a cybersecurity questionnaire from a major financial services company about an MCP server we're providing them. And it's what you would expect, but also I was very impressed. The cybersecurity team in question really understood MCP. They understood the issues. They understood AI. It was very, very good questions. But you can tell that the cybersecurity team is going, okay, this is a whole new attack surface. How do we take care of it? How do we make sure that, we still are compliant with all of our regulatory requirements and so on? And so there's kind of all that just general resistance, right? Enterprises have a hard time adopting brand new technology, just like they did with cloud. So I think that's going to be one big pain point. And then the other is, there just seems to be I don't want to say a lack of education, but almost a finding your own way as a group about how to apply these technologies to be successful. So, for example, in the cloud native days, before we even had the term cloud native, people would try to put all kinds of workloads on AWS that didn't belong there, and then there would be problems. So I think it's similar here in that we had people going, okay, an AI agent can just come in and automate everything for me. And then when they start to get in the trenches and figure out what that means, they realize AI agents aren't, the best for every solution. They're appropriate for what they're good at, which is fuzzy logic, right? And you still have to have, regular old normal software in place. And you have to figure out how to put these things together in a way where you're going to create business value. And so it's not automation for automation's sake using AI agents. It's going in and looking at the business, doing a triage of your own portfolio and saying, hey, I care about, this is a place where we can use agents for direct business impact. This is another place where we can do it, and actually thinking through kind of the business objectives and almost looking at it through the lens of being a CEO for a new startup, for example, and really sort of asking yourself, what is the business impact if we apply AI agents to this specific use case and solve this specific problem?
What are some of the biggest opportunities that you see will arise for not only by consumer, I mean those enterprises who are going to consume it, but also for players like Mirantis?
I mean, for us, like we're really focused on the AI infrastructure right now. So I would say that sovereign AI clouds and sort of that whole neo cloud segment, that's a place where, we see the largest opportunity for us as a business kind of in the short term. And then the longer term, I think it's really about us helping enterprises cross the AI chasm.
When I was listening to you about the predictions, challenges, uh, everybody wants to adopt these technology. What actionable advice you have for enterprise leaders? What should they start doing now to be ready? And also, in past, we get excited about the new shiny object and then we try to course correct. But since now AI is also here to help them, what is your advice how they should tread?
Yeah, I think it's really clear. At least it is for me. You need to basically go get your teams using the technology and applying it. Period. Full stop. That's what got people in gear on cloud native days. That's what did get them in gear now. That same FinServe company that I was talking about, they wanted an MCP server from us because they have a top-down initiative that basically says every group needs to be working with AI agents. Like it's come straight top-down, thou shalt do this. And I think that that's really important. People are afraid of AI. They're worried about it taking their jobs. They're worried about, failures in, bringing something to production inside the business. They're worried about all kinds of things like they would be with any kind of disruptive technology, especially one this disruptive. But in order to have your entire organization level up, your entire organization has to go use the tools and has to use them in a serious way. It's not about just going in and having ChatGPT write some document for you. It's about actually integrating the tools into your workflow and figuring out how they can make a difference. I love the story you were telling me at the beginning of this conversation we're having today, where you're saying, hey, I brought in MCP and I've got agents doing all these things for me now. And what you did is you actually changed your workflows. Like you said, you don't even read your email anymore. You have the agents going and extracting what you need. And that's what's really changing, is that the workflows are changing, whether it's development, whether it's operations, whether it's marketing, whether it's customer support. The workflows are changing because we're inserting AI agents into those workflows. And it's not about taking your old workflows and just jamming an agent in there. It's about the new kinds of workflows that are possible because you've got AI agents in the process. And I think that's where people get a little mixed up. A lot of times they're just looking at this as like an optimization of existing things that they're doing. And instead it needs to be a rethink. Does this business process need to be done in this way? Or can we do it a different new way now that we can add agentic capabilities to a new workflow?
Now, before we wrap this up, what is going to be your or Mirantis's focus or priorities this year to help customers navigate this future?
It's a two-pronged approach. One, make sure that we can deliver high-quality AI infrastructure, especially for sovereign AI clouds, so that the capacity is out there for people to get what they need, because we know that that's just an ongoing problem. There's still there's no glut, right? There's still a demand, more demand than there is capacity. And you can see that with RAM prices. You can see that with everything. And that's not going to go away right away. And then the second is the application, the practical application of agents to real world business problems. It's about knocking down the low hanging fruit, the things that get you somewhere, so that you can use that as a proof point to kind of build on and build the DNA, the culture change inside the business that you need to basically cross the AI chasm.
Randy, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your predictions with us. I didn't want to put any pressure that, I'll have you back at the show at the end of the year to check how many of the predictions turn out to be true and get next set of predictions. But thank you for your time today, and I look forward to the next discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Swab.